I believe humans are so much more capable than we think. And if we give that space, that guidance, that coaching in a place that's fueled by passion, it's pretty incredible where we could go.
Bonjour and welcome to Wide Walls, a podcast where educators, researchers, designers, and innovators share their vision for building richer learning experiences for children and reflect on the journeys that shape them. I'm Mathieu Penaud, a product manager and learning experience designer exploring the intersection of design, technology, and education and the human stories behind it. If today's conversation resonates with you, share it with someone who cares about the future of learning. And now, let's welcome our guest. Today on White Walls, I'm really excited to welcome Julia Rivard Dexter, entrepreneur, edtech innovator, and one of the most compelling voices at the intersection of literacy, engagement, and technology in education. Julia is the co-founder and CEO of Shoelace Learning, the company behind Dreamscape, a gamified reading platform that has reached over 13 million students around the world and was named a top 20 global edtech startup by SAU GSV. Before Shoelace, she co-founded Squiggle Park, a foundational literacy platform she successfully sold to Dreambox Learning in 2021. And if that weren't enough, Julia also represented Canada at the 2000 Olympic Games as a sprint kayaker. In this episode, we'll explore the adolescent literacy crisis, why engagement and motivation are so often the missing piece, and how Julia has fundamentally transformed the way Shoelace operates, making the bold shift from a human-first to an AI agents-backed company, and what that transition has meant in practice. Julia, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to White Walls.
Hi, Mathieu. Nice to be here.
As usual, we're going to start with some rapid-fire questions. So my first question is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Bay, Ontario, Canada.
And where do you live now?
I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia on the East Coast.
And who was your favorite teacher when you were a child?
Oh, that's such a difficult question for me. It's probably why I got into education. I don't know if I had a favorite teacher, sadly. I never felt like I was seen at school. Yeah. And so we can talk more about that, but I have trouble answering that question. Yeah.
Definitely. Then I'd love to know who, not being a child then, later on, who kind of made a difference in your learning journey?
I think it started with my parents who never gave up on me, even though I really, really struggled. English teacher mom, a father who was a federal court judge. I respect them both very much. And they were kind of early inspirations for me, for sure. Later on, as an athlete, I looked up to athletes. And then more recently, I've looked up to some pretty amazing education leaders like Jessie Woolley Wilson at Dreambox, Betsy Corcoran, who's been a publisher and now is working in the field of AI. There's several, especially women, that I look up to who've made a great difference in education.
Wonderful. And since your mom is a teacher, I guess that qualifies as your favorite teacher.
Yeah, I guess she would be upset if I said she was. And yeah, that's great. Thanks, Mathieu. You're saving me here.
What is one thing that all kids should learn at school?
Confidence.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that all adults should learn at work?
I think to slow down and take care, to do things well.
What was because we're going to talk about literacy, what was your favorite book or your favorite reading experience as a teenager?
That's a great question. In Ontario, we had grade 13. It was like an extra grade that we did before we went off to university or graduated to work. Grade 13 was split into two halves of the year. The first half was, and this is for every subject, was focused on researching and writing a thesis. And the second half was presenting that thesis. And that was my favorite year of school. I got so much out of that year. But in my English class, I chose A.A. Milne to research, so the author of the Winnie the Pooh books. And I just love the poetry, the Winnie the Pooh poetry. I love poetry. But that poetry was so fun to research and to research him as an author. And to this day, I can recite many, many of his poems in full. So
Oh,
I would
wow. That's
say
awesome.
that would be my favorite experience.
That's awesome. What is one thing you learned as an Olympian that still helps you today?
That being the best in the world is absolutely possible, given you put in the work and you surround
Mm-hmm.
yourself with people who are there to help lift you up, I would say.
Mm. I love how it ties back to the confidence that you think we
Yeah.
should learn at school. Yeah. All right. Two last questions. What is the latest thing you did for work?
Latest thing I did for work, I searched my garage for pull-up banners that I'm gonna be bringing to a conference, and I can't find them anywhere, so it's driving me crazy. Um, yeah, no, the latest important thing that I've done for work is I've been working on a proposal with some leaders in Oklahoma, in the state of Oklahoma. We have a 3-year partnership there to transform adolescent literacy in the state, but it's not done from a product perspective, it's done from a systems perspective. So I've been working with Dr. April Grace at the Oklahoma Public Schools Resource Center, Dr. Ed Harris, who is from the Brock Foundation, and Dan Hamlin, who's their Secretary of Education in the state. And we're looking at an approach where we can measure the impact that game-based learning, and not just game-based learning, but an approach where we deliver it in tournaments, class v class, school v school. How can we use
Mm,
competition to get kids to be inspired to really push the bar on their own learning? And we've seen it be a success, and now we want to measure it. So I've been working on that project, on that proposal, and I'll be going down to meet with them in a week or so to iron out the details. So that's very exciting.
very cool. Yeah, very cool. And what is the latest thing you did to relax?
Probably my walks, my early morning walks. Every morning I walk for just over an hour. And today the sun is out and the sky is blue and the birds. I saw a cardinal
Mm,
and a blue jay. And I love my walks. They help me relax. It's a perfect kickoff to every day. I haven't
mm.
missed it. I think I started in COVID. So I would say I started in March 2020 and I haven't missed a day since. So
Wow.
creature of
Well,
habit.
well done. Yeah, yeah. I'm lucky I have a dog that forces me to have these walks as well.
I've been trying
I
to
don't know if
convince
I
my
could.
husband that I need a dog. I'd love to have a dog, but he's not a dog person. But I think I'd be a good dog owner for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day.
uh,
That's in my future.
we'll definitely love the 1 hour walk every morning,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Julia, for answering these questions. And now let's get started with the main part of our conversation. The first question I have is, how do you feel when you reflect on your journey from where you started to where you are now?
How do I feel? I feel really lucky. Very, very, very lucky. There's moments in my life. I mentioned, how important it is to be brought, propped up by other people. And I think in my life, I've had people who've championed me, which has really been pivotal in kind of reaching where I am. I'm also really thrilled that I've ended up in education, which is a place I would have never planned to end. um, but working in education every day, although it can be extremely difficult and frustrating, it's so much more. It's so much more uplifting and heartening because you're making a difference. So yeah, if I look back on the journey, it's really been totally unscripted. I would have never chosen this path. That's probably like all of us, right? We think we're going to go in a straight line, and it's not straight at all. Yeah, so I just feel very, very lucky and proud, I guess. I think proud's probably a
Hmm.
bad word, but proud of what I've accomplished in life so far. Yeah, not done, but so far
Yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah. I think, yeah, proud is something that we struggle to say when we
Yeah,
should be proud of our
yeah.
achievements. So that's a
It's a
good thing.
sin, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the sins, I think. I feel like,
Yeah, that's true. Just
yeah,
yeah. I guess there's two sides of the coin, but
like with everything, there's two sides of the coin. But I
yeah.
think in this case, it's the positive,
Yeah, it's always
positive.
celebrating our achievements.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
important.
I am proud. And I haven't always felt that way. There's been times where I've been
Mm,
almost embarrassed of success or, trying to kind of downplay it or unable to reflect. And I don't feel that way anymore. I feel very reflective and happy with the years that have gone by for sure.
great. And I want to go back to, so you mentioned, rapid fire questions, that you had some struggles at school as a
Hmm.
kid. And that's one of the reasons also that you didn't expect to be working in the education field. Could you tell us a little more about that period of your life?
Yeah, for sure. I think up until about fourth grade, I felt very normal as a kid, as a student at school. Just a girl in the class with other friends, and in fourth grade, I really struggled with reading. I also had a pretty bad speech impediment, so I'd go to speech therapy for a lisp. And as soon as as soon as you're pulled out of the class as a kid, you're identified as different. There's no doubt about that. So that definitely didn't make me feel great. But being a slow reader or a late reader, um, I was held back in fourth grade, and so I was put into a 3-4 split. And at the time, it was kind of known. The nickname was the dumb class, right? That's where the dumb kids went um, to learn if they weren't able to keep up with the smart kids. And I was the only girl in that class, and that really changed my trajectory in school. Like I from that point on, I really struggled to have friendships with girls because they had all moved on without me. And I just felt academically just not smart. And that really stuck with me. And I care so much about literacy because I feel like it's the first thing in life where we're really measured publicly in a way that's either you're good
Mm,
or you're not. And it's so silly because literacy is a continuum. Like learning to read is a continuum. And there should never be a moment where somebody says, "Oh, you're just not good at reading." It's just, you just need to continue to practice and improve. So is for me, I'm so passionate about kind of breaking down that wall, which we still have, right? We still have you learn to read by third grade, and then you read to
mm,
learn, which to me is this arbitrary line that it's not arbitrary. There's some science behind why that line is there, but not everybody follows that path. And so for me, it became a really hard time. And it was a time where I checked out of school. At that point, I was not going to be interested in school anymore. People didn't see my potential. And I knew deep down I had potential. And I had to find a way to unleash it. And it wasn't going to
yeah,
be at school. I think that was
yeah,
very, very clear. I was being told that that's not where I was going to achieve. So, yeah, fourth grade was tough.
yeah, and yeah. There's so much research about how detrimental putting labels on
Mm,
kids early on is, and how much it reshapes their identity and
yeah.
self worth. And yeah, it's terrible to hear that and to know that it happens to a lot of
Oh, for
kids
sure.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Um,
is terrible to put a label because you're looking at adults who are there to guide you. And if they're telling you that you're a slow reader or a bad reader, or, you come to believe it. And at
yeah,
that
you
point,
internalize it.
early
Mm,
in elementary, reading is school, right? Like
mm,
it is, it's not like I'm good at gym class, so I'm a really good student, right? So it became such an important part of my identity that I've tried to shake ever since. And I'm sure it's still down there somewhere. I'm sure I still feel
yeah,
it at times. Yeah.
yeah. And you mentioned the line between learning to read and reading to learn. Can you just tell us a bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our systems are built to teach students how to read by third grade. So all of the early reading skills, and there's quite a bit of science behind that, really a lot of repetition for phonemes, phonemic awareness, word work, sight words, getting kids exposure to kind of the mechanics behind reading. And then they get into engaging with authentic text. So it's everything to prepare them to start to have a text in front of them to be able to read that text and then start to work on comprehension, which is a whole other kind of series of skills. So right now our systems are built to teach students how to read by third grade and then use that reading to teach all other subjects after third grade. And so that's what I mean by that when I
Mm,
say learn to read, read to learn.
mm. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And so you started your first build Squiggle Park that was for young children. So I think more on
Mm,
that phase of learning to read. and now Shoelace. They also founded and working on right now, focus on older students, like adolescents. So I'm curious, like, what was your, thought process from starting with early
Yeah.
ages and then going to adolescence, and why you wanted to take this challenge more specifically of adolescent literacy?
Yeah, so maybe backing it up a little bit further,
Mm-hmm.
the reason I got into education at all, because frankly, Matthew, like I didn't even want to step foot in a classroom or in a school. I
Mm.
had three young kids when I started this company. Started thinking about it in 2014. And I had been working in technology for years, and I worked closely with Google. And really, we were always working on technologies that would increase user engagement. How do we get users to engage more? Because that was always those were the metrics that we were looking at. And I had been I'd been neglecting school because I didn't feel like I should be there, and I was thinking, the school's got it. Teachers are going to handle it. The kids are fine. But when my son Max was in fourth grade, he struggled with reading, and we were told that he had to go see a psychologist for a diagnosis to see if there was something that was wrong, and that was going to take a year. There was like a waiting list for a year, or we had to pay $1,000. So, and there was all of this kind of that came at us really quickly, and I thought, no, no, this is not okay. First of all, I'm not waiting a year for my son to be able to know if he needs help. But how many parents can just cough up $1,000? So I was really bothered by that. I had just sold my company that was working with Google, and so I had a bit of breathing room to think about what was next. And I thought, well, maybe what I was finding with Max as a mom was he would come home from school and he knew he wasn't a quote unquote good reader, right? So he'd come home and I'd have to do reading with him at home, these little leveled books. And he hated it so much and we would fight. It would become a fight every single day. And I didn't want to fight with him. Like I was working all day and I just wanted to hang with him and have a good time. And so I
Mm-hmm.
decided not to. I said, I'm just not going to do it. But I thought there's got to be a better way. Like, frankly, those leveled books, they're horrible. They're so boring, and kids who struggle get the same books sent home again and again and again, and there's nothing engaging about them. At the same time, you've got, super rich video games or digital content kids are playing, and I knew there could be a melding of the digital sphere. How do we build highly engaging content for students to get them to want to be motivated to read? So that was the initial idea. And I convinced we have a minister of education in our province. She was a rock star, Sandra Mackenzie, and I convinced her to let me shadow teachers in the classroom for about a year. And that was a fascinating experience for me. I saw major problems with behavior management, kids that were just acting out, really disrupting classes. And there were so many teachers that weren't trained to be reading teachers. And so I thought, okay, cool. This is a problem that we can help solve. And so we built Squiggle Park, which we released in 2016. Really fantastic science reading backed early reading game for students. And like you mentioned in the intro, it was sold to Dreambox. Um, and I think your question, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, how did I move from this early reading to adolescent reading? Is that correct? Is like
Yeah, because that it feels like two different. Yeah, and just
Yeah.
that whole progression is
Yeah.
interesting to me. Yeah.
The transition was, well, one, I was under a non-compete. I couldn't, I sold sold Squiggle Park, and I knew I wasn't allowed to compete in the early literacy space. But I think even more importantly, when we were working with teachers, there was such a gap. Like when students learn those early skills, it doesn't mean that they can read with stamina, with
Mm.
comprehension, with fluency. Like that's a big bridge from skills to fluency, stamina, and comprehension, and so on. And teachers were saying, is there anything that you can help with that gap, like where students have to engage with longer texts? And that's what got me excited and interested in adolescent literacy. And so when we built Shoelace, we decided not to focus on early reading skills. We would focus on at the moment when students have to engage with longer texts.
Mm.
It just so happened, like that was back in, I think we started thinking about that in 2019. Um, but it just so happened that became a really urgent need that's been popping up more and more. And over the last year, we've been hearing adolescent literacy as a main focus for so many, because these kids are just totally being left behind. And
Hmm.
the sad thing is that it's absolutely addressable, right? We can absolutely help these students. We need some systems changes, but and we need teachers to be supported, but it can absolutely happen. We've seen it happen, and there's so many people now working in this adolescent literacy space that are doing amazing things to make sure that older students have what they need to become strong
Mm.
readers. I wasn't a strong reader till 7th grade. It took me that long to feel like I could actually read something and comprehend it. So, I don't want to, I believe that every kid can get there. We just got to help them.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right, and it's interesting because when we talk about literacy gaps, we always tend to think early learning, right? And so, as
Yeah.
you say, there's a gap in addressing adolescents, teenagers once they already have those gaps, and they still need to, um, uh, get the resources and the support they need to fill up these gaps. And actually, it's a good time now to ask you, like, what exactly is Shoelace? Like, how does it work, and what did you implement to help them improve their reading comprehension and all the different aspects of reading and literacy that they need to be proficient in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've always focused on making sure that we are science-based, research-based, that there's validation of what we're working on. Now, early reading was so much simpler. I don't want to say it's simple,
Hmm.
but it was easier to build because it was a much more linear process of skill mastery. And skill mastery was very easy to be able to assess. Yeah, that student understands it, they've practiced it, they've demonstrated mastery. When you get into comprehension, it gets much more complex because comprehension is not it's not a straight path at all. It's really quite a spider web, 3D spider web of skills that students have to master kind of in a ballet as they're reading to be able to understand. So I mentioned stamina, and which students struggle with quite a bit, and fluency. But in comprehension, we've done quite a bit of work with researchers to identify over 100 skills that students need to master to be strong at reading comprehension. That can be a basic skill about a character trait to something that's more technical, like figurative language, or something that's much more advanced, like using reading to predict an outcome or analyze a situation or compare and contrast. So all of these things are a part of reading and reading comprehension. And it's amazing because I think we do in the industry still sometimes just think about learning to read as just those basic skills. And there's so much more to it. And asking a teacher to be able to look at me in a class of 25 students and know what I'm facing in terms of challenge in the moment when it could be a huge number of things that are going on versus the person beside me. It's almost an impossible task for a human to do. And this is why I was so excited about using technology and really intelligent technology to pinpoint where students struggle. So that's what we did. We built basically a database of over 30,000 content assets and all tagged and labeled, and then a learning engine that's able to identify which content a student needs in the moment based on where they are in their learning journey. And if they struggle, it hones in on that struggle and it assigns them an intervention to work on that struggle. And it does that all automatically so that teachers aren't having to think about what content do these students need at what moment, who needs an intervention, who needs enrichment. Because it's a whole other thing. We focus so much on intervention when enrichment is something every student needs too, right? So we
Mm.
can't just stop at helping them get proficient. We have to get them to be advanced in their use of literacy. So all of that is embedded into a platform, and that platform plugs into mobile games. And that's what makes it quite novel is that we created mobile games that students love to play outside of the classroom and these games have core loops that are focused on motivating students to continue to play. And what we've done is those core loops trigger the learning content at the right moment so that students are highly motivated to continue to read and answer questions, to be able to succeed and progress in the games. And so that's been a really challenging process. Game-based learning, I think it's been tried for years and years and often failed. And so for us, making sure that we were able to engage students in a way that they're actually learning and not just gaming has been a key focus. But
Yeah.
I feel now we're at the point where we've been able to prove this through third-party studies, through our data, and we can see the impact that we're having with students. And so finally, I feel like we can say, with strength that we've validated this approach. And I want to be clear because I think there's often a sense that founders like me feel like their solution is the solution. This is a piece of a broad literacy quilt that these students need,
Mm,
and it's a great way to get students to practice and to practice content at their level intentionally. But it's just a piece of the quilt, and so we need supports, in so many different domains when it comes to literacy. Um, and I never want to imply that this is like the solution. I just
mm,
really believe that what we've built is it's a it's a tool that it motivates intentional practice. And one thing we struggle with is getting students to practice, right? I think the
yeah.
biggest challenge in adolescent reading today is they're not reading. Like that is the biggest challenge. Trying to get
Mm,
a teenager to pick up a book in their own spare time, forget about it. I have 4, and 2 were good readers. Two. I shouldn't say good. 2 learned to read early, and 2 took longer to read. But all 4 of them, it's been a struggle to get them to want to pick up a book.
mm,
So yeah. So anyway, getting students to practice is without it, we're not going anywhere. We're dead in the water. So that's been
yeah.
the focus with Shoelace is let's get them to practice, let's get them to engage, and let's start developing those skills.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And it brings me to like 2 questions. I mean, the first one is if you could give us, just so we can visualize, like an example of a game, just high level, or what kind of
Mm.
game it is, and how you incorporate learning. Just one cool example
Yeah,
in like
super, super
that
simple.
can be
Yeah,
looked.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll give you a visual for the listeners. So if you have played a mobile game on your phone, whether it be Candy Crush or Clash of Clans or Subway Surfer or any of those, in the gaming core loop, there's a motivating moment where advertisers have been smart to pop up ads, right? That game pops up an ad because they know you want something really badly. Well, instead of an advertisement, we don't do ads in the games. Instead of an advertising, that's where your learning content pops up. And you're so motivated to achieve in the game that you're motivated to engage with the content authentically, like really try. Because if you don't get a benefit and you're just going to have to engage with another piece of content and more questions. So students learn pretty quickly, and we've designed some really special parts of the game to motivate students to try, to not be guessing. That's another
Mm,
big problem in our field is students just guessing answers, and that doesn't get them anywhere.
mhm.
So motivating them to want to practice well is a big piece of it. But yeah, just like mobile game and the learning pops up in the game. The way it works for teachers is that the learning pops up at the level the student needs in the moment, and their level is tracked as they play. So teachers can always see where they're succeeding, where they're struggling, what skills they've mastered. And then, like I said, there's an automatic intervention that happens for students who need intervention. So that's all done just while students play. And
Nice.
yeah, it's fun. Like it's super
Mhm.
fun to implement for teachers, really fun for kids, and we're seeing that students are just begging, truly begging to play the tool, which is leading to a high level of high amount of reading every week, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah. And I'm curious because you mentioned when you're talking about reading, you mentioned like that, kids, students don't pick up books anymore and read anymore. And so I'm wondering, and of course, there's a lot of different ways to read. You can read a book, you can read on a screen. There's so many ways. I'm curious how you feel about this tension between helping them to learn to read on a screen when screen is also something that kind of tend to
Yeah.
bring them away from reading other forms of like books on
Yeah.
other form of media.
Great question. It's a big conversation these days, right? Screen time
Mm,
and students on screens. And the last thing I want is for my kids to spend hours and hours on screens. But the reality is that they are on screens sometimes. and I want to make sure that the time that they're on screens is going to be valuable time. And so the screen time debate, I feel very strongly about. I like every parent in the world does not want my kids on a phone, a lot. I want them outside
Mm,
playing. I want them picking up a book. But at the same time, there are opportunities to use things like mobile games, which are on screens, to motivate students to get these skills so that they can pick up a book. And I have seen that. I've seen that with my own kids. I've seen it with students that we work with. Is that building that confidence? It goes back to confidence, right? So when they play the games and they start reading smaller passages and they get to longer passages and they realize, oh my gosh, I am a reader, right? I can identify as being a reader now. The likelihood that they will pick up a book, it just opens right up, because
mm,
that identity is a complete blocker from a student wanting to read off, devices. If you don't believe you're a reader, you just won't pick up a book. So I love the idea of using screen time in a very intentional way. And I don't think we've been doing it, right? It's been pretty Wild West, letting our kids do whatever they want to do on
yeah.
screens. But I think we're really wising up to the fact that we've got to be more deliberate. It feels to me like I grew up in the 80s and I feel like we ate a lot of fast food, right? And now the idea of bringing my kids to McDonald's every like every meal is really, it's crazy. Like, it's a crazy thought. And screens are very similar, I think, right now, that we're starting to realize, oh my gosh, a content diet really matters. And there are some amazing digital programs for students, not just when it comes to curriculum, but like things where kids can make stop motion animation, or like there's
Mm,
amazing programs, creative programs, where students aren't just consuming, they're participating in learning and they're creating. And so I don't think we should throw out the baby with the bathwater when we are concerned about screen time. I think we can't be lazy about it. We have to be thoughtful
mm,
and realize that not all screen time is built to be equal. We got to be, yeah, very kind of thoughtful and critical about what our kids have access to. It's too easy to scroll, video shorts for hours and hours on end. Like, I don't know if you're guilty, but I'm definitely guilty of doing that at times. And our kids, they're vulnerable. We have to make sure that they're guided. Um, and so it's important for me as a founder of a company who cares deeply about building tools that actually help, to make sure people know about it. Like, parents know about the fact that there's a series of games on a Shoelace platform that help their kids learn how to read. Um,
mm.
because there's so much garbage and there's so much noise out there. It's really hard to fight through the noise to say, "Hey, we're here and we're helping," and and make sure that you know what your kids are doing. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be it needs a lot of advocacy. I just hope right now the screen time conversation doesn't kind of kill the good. Yeah,
Mm,
I'll share a bit of story. Last week, I was visiting some teachers who were using AI in different ways, and there was a second grade teacher, and he had read a study that you should present content that's at a higher level than your students can read at, because that's engaging for them. So he chose to read his kids The Hobbit. So second grade students, and he's reading The Hobbit. And he made this a year-long project. And every day he does a read aloud with his students. And then after the read aloud, he gets them to go to the computer and they use something called Padlet. And on Padlet, they create a storyboard with what they remember. So they have to recall
mm.
what they heard, and then they have to rewrite the story. And they use AI to help edit what they wrote. And then he moves them over to a makerspace and they choose one of their characters and they get to build a costume for the Hobbit. And then he moves them over to an area with a green screen, and they're not allowed to move locations until they've finished their tasks and they're working together. And in the last station, he gets them to video on the green screen in their costumes using the storyboard from what they remember from The Hobbit, and he videos it. And by the end of the year, he's recreated their own version of the book in a movie form. And the green screen recording was put into an AI software that actually embedded the background, the Hobbit background. when I saw what he had produced with these students, like it was exceptional. I've sat through so many horrible student plays, like really, really bad. And I was looking at what these students created. They have to be so excited because it's at a level that they could never have believed they would have achieved, right? Like, and that
Mm,
is where technology can be transformative because it shows students that they have the capacity with the right tools to do something exceptional. And
mm,
that to me, you asked earlier about, well, when I think about my life and what the Olympics gave me, it gave me this belief that I could do things that were exceptional, that I can be the best in the world. And I don't think kids necessarily are given that perspective at an early age that they can be the best at what they do, that they can be exceptional because they are young and they haven't learned the pieces yet. They haven't actually achieved that and they don't know how to produce these outcomes. When teachers use tools in smart ways like this, those kids are going to grow up to be the Spielbergs of the future, right? Like, or the Tom Cruises of the future, or whatever it is. But I really do worry when we talk so critically about screen time that we're not giving teachers, like great teachers, the benefit of the doubt that they can actually use these tools to be transformative for students. Let's not
mm.
take that power away from them, right? Let's give them the power to do great. Um, so anyway, that's probably too long of an answer, but I feel really, really passionate about making sure that message is part of the conversation.
Well, that's super interesting. And I think the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, especially towards the end, is how do you give teachers the opportunity to learn and train about these tools because they already have so much, like so many constraints and so little time to like learn new tools. And so how do you embed these tools or give them the opportunity to experiment and explore and understand the power of these tools and see how they can incorporate that into their teaching?
It's a great question because I think that's a pretty common message is that teachers don't have time to take on another thing.
Mm,
Um, in my experience, that's not been the case. In my experience, passionate teachers take their passion and they transform it to be in a format that students can consume in a real way, right?
mm,
The problem is not I really don't think the problem is training teachers. I think we can provide teachers training. I think smart young teachers are going online and finding ways to teach themselves how to do this stuff. Like this teacher had learned about Padlet on his own, about the AI technology for video on his own because he was so passionate about the project. That's what engagement is, right?
mm,
Engagement puts us in a position to be motivated to take ourselves further. Teachers will do that too. The problem is it's a higher level than that. The problem is structure, right? So I asked him, how can you do this? Like, how do you have time to do this when you have to be teaching curriculum? And he said, well, I just took the time to make sure that everything that I was teaching was going to check the box for that piece of curriculum so that I could make this my project for the year. And he wasn't jumping from lesson to lesson to lesson. He had one long lesson that he built that was kind of additive throughout the year. But somebody in his school gave him the flexibility to do that, right? Like an
mm,
administrator gave him the space to be creative and to bring his passion into the space. And I've seen that be a problem. I've seen teachers feel like they don't have the agency to think outside the box, to be creative, um, to take the time to actually, yeah, bring in new tools and introduce them, or to even be choosing the tools that they want to use. A lot of school districts really limit teachers from choice, which longer conversation because there are serious data privacy issues and security issues with some technology. So I get it. But I believe that teachers do find time when they're given the space and when they are motivated by a passion, right? And
mm.
teachers are passionate. They are motivated people, and they're learners. So I really I don't want to continue to have that narrative myself because I've seen different. in schools.
Yeah,
And I think that's
that's
a
a great
dangerous
point.
narrative because it's easy to just be like, sorry, don't have time. And
Mm.
I don't think it's the case.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, and yeah, it's also about like energy, right? What energizes you, what energizes you as a teacher, and
Yeah. Like I'm sure, Matthew, you've got things that energize you like crazy.
yeah.
And the effort you put into those things is insane, right? Like I'll put my head
Mhm.
down on a project I'm energized to do and I'll be like, nobody can even like nobody can even speak to me. I won't pick my head up at all because it's so you're so passionate, so motivated by it. And so yeah, I think that's actually where technology can fit in beautifully because people no longer now are limited. Like, I really do think people can take their passions and push them further. And now teachers can do that alongside students as they learn about how to use technology. And I think I've seen it be a very powerful experience.
Yeah, no, that's so important. So I'm very glad that you're talking about that. And actually, that's a great segue to another topic that I want to discuss with you, which is something you told me about the way you're running Shoelace and how you've made a shift
Yeah.
from like a human first to more like an AI agents backed company. So really using the power of AI and AI agents to
Yeah.
do a lot of the tasks that you need to do. So can you like take us back to the moment of that transition and like why you decided to take this route?
I don't know if I would have done it as efficiently or as quickly as I did if we hadn't faced the pressure of the market over the last year. Like education has been in a really tough spot over the last year. Everyone's been tightening their belts. Like there's been uncertainty with budgets. I think that there's just been a huge amount of uncertainty, and that leads to uncertain buying cycles, uncertain partnerships, and that's led us to have to be really, really careful and really manage the company with discipline. And we're not alone. Like, I think this is somebody I was talking to yesterday said, flat is the new growth, right? Like just making sure that you're kind of maintaining your space in the market. I think that's changing. I feel like it's shifting, but that led us to have to get really smart about where we were spending money and being a technology company, almost like one of our biggest expenses was people. And
Mm,
we had a large team, and I think about a year ago we started to get really. We've always been very good at documenting. I come from a background that's based in software, and so documenting has been a big and important part of what we do at Shoelace. But getting everyone to document their intelligence, their systems, their processes, um, in a way that we were able to feed that information into AI agents to actually create taskmasters, like agents that are able to reproduce the work that our team was doing, but in a way that's so much more efficient, and with the click of a button. So this isn't leveraging large language models in the way that people are thinking about, just chat GPT. This is connecting AI systems into our databases, into our documentation, to be able to, into the research, to be able to do things like produce insights reports on the data that we're seeing for administrators, coaching reports for instructional tech people or reading coaches. Like all of this in the past would have taken months to think through and develop and then customize for individual partners that we work for. And now it can be done in a matter of hours. And not only that, it can be done by people who don't necessarily have those expertise because the experts were able to bring their intelligence to the table and we were able to productize it. Um,
mm,
it started with kind of just simple tasks that we would do again and again and again and again. Producing a report, an activity report for our partners. Um, that was a very manual task, and that became something that was automated and doesn't require any human involvement anymore, and goes right to the partner. So they don't need our intervention either. They don't have to be waiting on us. But then more recently, I was shocked to just see how it could replace even some of our more senior people because the documentation of the intelligence over like we're talking about over a decade, right, has been so well done. It's kind of
Mm.
sad when you think about it. Like you're able to do this because people did their jobs so well. And
Mm-hmm.
there is a serious human cost. Um, for years, we've been talking about AI replacing people. This is the first year I've seen it in action. Like I've seen it. Oh wow, this is so doable. It's not a theoretical thing.
Mm.
Um, and the human cost is real. And I miss people. Like our I miss having the people on the team that we had on the team. It's that's a cost that does need to be weighed, but it's real. Like we were able to cut close to $1 million in expenses, in just a couple months, um, by implementing AI agents, and that can continue. But
Mm.
there's a line. There's definitely a line where you need to understand where do we need to continue to have human involvement, and where do we? I, th- I think, and I haven't totally sorted this out in my mind, Matthew. So I don't know. I may say something that I need to pull back on in a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my disclaimer. But instead of, I think where I've noticed an opportunity is instead of having time employees, we bring in people with expertise when we need it for the period that we need it. We document those expertise. We build the task part of what needs to happen with those expertise, and then we don't need them until we need them again. So it becomes a much more kind of project-based situation where as you're evolving, you might need to bring in a series of experts who can bring that to the table, but you don't need them 24/7 because they don't need to be doing the manual stuff they were doing in the past. So that's where
Mm.
I'm seeing kind of the transformation of our company. And it's been massive. And it's led to a much more successful experience from a customer standpoint too, which is fascinating, right? You'd think that that would suffer, but just the ease of getting information, to our partners, to our customers in a way that's so helpful for them, it's become, yeah, almost automatic.
Mm. I see. Yeah. No, that's very impressive. And definitely raises like yeah, a lot of questions, and I'm sure it's a process. Um, and you mentioned there's some aspect of it where you really need to keep the human in the loop, or the human like working. Like what are those parts of the work that really need to remain
Mm. I
led
have
by
to
a
rem
human?
Well, I don't think you can forever. I think you do have to bring those expertise back, right? Like I think that eh, you can't expect that the AI agents are going to be successful forever unless they're repeating a very specific task that isn't going to change. But you always learn and you're always adapting and evolving. And so you do have to bring the experts back in to take that new information and understand what we need to do with it. So that's important, to understand that we are going to always need people who can think through information and help guide it, to do what we need to do. From a human perspective, I would say, like, where do we really need people? I think there's still a real need for people on the partnership side, like really being at the table with our partners, understanding their goals, understanding how to deliver to those goals, and being like doing it with them. Um, I think in education technology in the past, and I think this is changing too, but in the past, I think it was much more transactional. Here's a license, pay for the license, and you've got the product. I don't think that works. We've seen implementations failing time and time and time again over the years. A lot of wasted money on failed implementations. And so I think it's the responsibility of the partner like us, like Shoelace, to come to the table and promise that we're going to do it with our education partners. We're going to be there as their data analysts. We're going to be there as their insights and training people, and we'll lighten their load because they don't have those expertise. And those are the partnerships I love because they can actually achieve outstanding outcomes that you're super proud of again. Um,
Mm.
but I've learned though that not every education partner is ready for that. And so you have to be really kind of critical up front. And this is probably where you need people again, is like really critical up front in qualifying who's actually ready to transform. Um, Because if you don't have the partner who's going to be coming to the table with the same energy, the same motivation, the same desire you have, again, it's just not going to be effective. And so working in collaboration, human to human, education leader to like kind of, what would you call us? People call us vendors. I hate that word, but like the education leader to innovation leader, like working together in
Hmm.
partnership. That's where the human really needs to be present. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And how's your day to day changed? Like, what does your day to day look like now?
Yeah. So the team still connects daily just to check in on where we are and what we're doing and just prioritize. The prioritization is actually something that really requires human input on the daily because there is no way to take information from all sources and use that to prioritize tasks in a way that's effective that I can see right now. Um, so that's what we do on the daily, but we often kind of are in our own space, just doing our own work, producing our own outcomes. So there's way less human connection,
Mm,
and I really miss it. I think that
yeah.
that's a big loss. But yeah, but it is the way it is right now.
Mm,
So I really crave the opportunity to connect with others who are working in this space. And I've been able to form amazing relationships with leaders like Louise Begelman from Story Shares, who's building content that's for adolescent learners, or Ethan Pierce, who's got Adaptive Reader, who's built an AI tool to adapt text to be accessible for learners. And these are people that are making real change in the space, who I respect. And being able to connect in that community is so important
mm.
for me now more than ever because I don't
Yeah,
have it in the day to day.
that's very interesting. It's kind of almost a shift from building these relationships and connections within a company, and then you don't really get to explore outside, to being forced to creating these
Mm.
connections outside of a company, and maybe creating even a richer community or a richer dialogue than if it
I
was
think it has the
contained within a
potential to do
company.
that.
Mm,
I think it has the potential to do that. I think that's fair to say, and I'm only realizing it just now speaking to you, but yeah, in the past, I would have been much more internally focused with what we're doing.
mm,
Lots of human interaction, which takes time, right? And you have to be careful to make sure you're managing people in a way that's, keeping everybody, the culture of the company up. And AI doesn't care about culture the same way. So it does its job and it does free up time to look outside of the company and build relationships and build community. That's so true. And I
mm.
think that is rich. It's a very, very, I don't know, it's an optimistic kind of point of view on what's possible. Yeah, because
We
community,
need some optimism.
yeah, we need some optimism. I feel super optimistic because I see amazing people doing amazing things
Mm,
and so motivated and enabled by tools that are like we've not never seen before. Um, but we have to be really careful. For instance, I've never used AI to generate content, learning content ever. And we've made that commitment. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, honestly. It's way more expensive to hire writers, to hire content reviewers, curriculum reviewers. We even hire an external JEDI team, so justice and equity and diversity and inclusion team, to review the content and make sure that it's culturally inclusive. We do all of that. Hugely expensive. But uh, I've always had a belief that we have students in our care from the time they're little until they're through high school. And there's that confined period of space where it's our job to teach them to open their minds to other perspectives, to being able to gain background knowledge about all different kinds of things. Um, and I worry that if we use technology too much in the generation of content, we'll get a little bit too, I don't know, too myopic, I guess is the word, with like a little too focused in on the same thing over and over and over again, and we'll lose the nuance of helping students expand their minds. We could narrow. That's a word I was looking for. Narrow. I don't want to narrow the thinking of our students. That is a real opportunity in education today, is to train them to open their minds to opportunity, to potential. And outside of the classroom, on the various technologies we use, everything's designed to narrow our thinking, right? It's all designed to get us down a pathway that the technology believes that we want and that we love, and it's probably right. But at school, we can do the opposite. We can open minds up. And
Mm.
so the commitment to generating our own content and making sure students are exposed to all different types of content has been something that has been meaningful to me as a leader in the space. And so where we could use AI in generating content could be so efficient, could be so cheap. We've just decided that that's not the path we're going to go down.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's amazing that you're drawing the line there as well. There's It's still such an early also technology that there's so much we don't know, and you would have to review everything anyway, right? And the
Well, the
cost would be
fact that,
there.
yeah, that's right. The fact that and I don't know if everybody does. Like, I think you can
Yeah,
get lazy.
true.
Like, as humans, we can be lazy. Like, I can be lazy. I go to the gym and then I'm tired to get my gym bag out of the back. And it's just amazing how lazy we can be. But yeah, no, I do like the fact that we can assure that we have reviewed every single letter of every single passage. And the conversations that go around those are so rich too. Like,
Mm,
that dialogue about the way to approach content, it can go deep. And I think that that's so valuable. But yeah,
yeah,
so we have drawn the
definitely.
line there. And yeah, who knows? Maybe at some point, if there was a large language model purpose built for education, where the content had been thoughtfully designed to be inclusive, then I would feel differently. But right now,
Mm,
if you look at, like, if you were to put every single learning material in an LLM to be able to teach students, like, you know, it's crazy the biases that are in the materials that we have to do. We have a lot of work to do to help
yeah,
students, um, yeah, be exposed to all different perspectives.
totally. And that's great because that leads me to my final question. If you could design a school around one thing, what would it be and why?
And this question is super hard for me because I still have this imposter syndrome around school.
Mm, yeah, it could be a very creative way to look at what a school does.
Yeah, I would I am so inspired by this teacher who I met last week, and I think that he's on to something special. I would look for people who are deeply passionate about subject matter, and I would help them train to be teachers. And then I would help students identify what they're deeply passionate about, and I would connect those dots. I would connect the students with the people who are mentors in that specific area of passion, and I would say, "Go. You guys design the curriculum. You guys design the outcomes that you want to achieve." Because I just feel like we are really limiting. I believe humans are so much more capable than we think we are, and if we give that space, that guidance, that coaching, um, in a place that's fueled by passion, it's pretty incredible where we could go. One of our company values is untethered. Everyone thinks it's so negative. Why would you have untethered? And the idea there is you don't know where you could take things. And so don't hold yourself back. Don't tether yourself to something that's going to kind of anchor you to the ground. Open your mind to what's possible and just see where you can go. So that would be my school. And
Wonderful.
it would be indoor, outdoor, whatever the passion was, that's what the student could follow. Um,
Mm,
yeah, yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. It was such an interesting conversation. Where can people find more information about you and your work?
Yeah, well, if you're looking for a reading tool for students or for children in third grade up to ninth grade, you can find out more information at shoelacelearning.com. And so we have apps that you can download on the app stores, or you can get the program online. And then we also have I started a bit of a passion project because I believe in literacy. We all have a moment where we realized that reading was more than just reading text. It was something that opened a door to knowledge or to discovery or fantasy. And so I started something called the Magic Moments Project. And so if anyone wants to check that out, it's mymagicmoment.space, and we're collecting stories. So if anyone wants to share their story of when they realized that reading was something more, love to have it. It'd be great.
Wow, yeah. I encourage everybody to do it. And I'll put the link in the description of the podcast.
Great.
So
Thank
please,
you
everyone,
so much.
go share your stories.
Yeah, go share your stories. Love to hear them.
All right. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you, Matthew. Have a great day.